The studio lights beamed brightly as Kelly Clarkson welcomed viewers to her popular talk show. The atmosphere was buzzing with excitement, as today's guest promised to draw massive attention. Meghan Markle was scheduled to appear for an exclusive interview, and fans were eager to see how the conversation would unfold. Meghan walked onto the stage with her signature smile, dressed in a perfectly tailored outfit that radiated confidence. Kelly greeted her warmly at first, shaking hands and gesturing for her to take a seat. The audience erupted in polite applause, though there was a certain tension in the air that was hard to miss. Kelly began with a series of polite questions about Meghan's recent charity work and upcoming projects. Meghan responded in her usual eloquent manner, carefully choosing her words. However, the conversation soon shifted toward more personal and controversial topics, and the tone began to change noticeably. Kelly leaned forward slightly, her expression sharpening. "Meghan," she began, "you've spoken often about authenticity and truth, but critics say your public image doesn't always match your private behavior. How do you respond to that?" The room seemed to tighten as Meghan's smile wavered just a bit. Meghan cleared her throat and offered a practiced laugh. "Well, Kelly, I think people believe what they want to believe," she replied. "I've always tried to live with integrity and focus on what truly matters." But her tone was defensive, and the audience picked up on the subtle shift in mood. Kelly didn't let it slide. "But some say that the public narrative you present is carefully crafted, even scripted, while behind closed doors it's a different story. Are you saying all those reports are false?" The question landed like a stone in water, rippling tension through the studio. Meghan's eyes narrowed slightly. "I can't control every rumor out there," she said. "It's exhausting to try to correct every falsehood. I prefer to put my energy into positive change." Her voice was steady, but there was an edge of frustration beneath the calm exterior. Kelly nodded, but there was a knowing glint in her eyes. "Fair enough," she said. "But don't you think public trust matters? When people feel like they're only seeing a polished version of someone, it makes them question the sincerity." The audience murmured softly, sensing the rising tension. Meghan shifted in her seat, crossing her legs and clasping her hands tightly in her lap. "Kelly, I've been through so much scrutiny that it's become second nature to protect my peace. If that comes off as polished, then so be it," she replied, forcing a light chuckle that didn't quite land. Kelly glanced briefly toward the audience, as if inviting them into the exchange. "It's interesting you say that," she continued, "because even some former colleagues have suggested that working with you was challenging. How do you respond to those who feel you're difficult?" The air thickened. Meghan's smile froze in place. "I think strong women often get labeled as difficult," she countered. "It's a way to diminish their voice." Her answer drew applause from some, but others sat in silence, waiting for Kelly's next move. Kelly's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's a valid point," she said, "but there's a difference between being strong and being dismissive of others. Have you ever reflected on whether some criticism might be earned?" Meghan's lips pressed together as she considered how to respond. Meghan took a breath, her voice firm. "I've always tried to treat people with respect. If someone feels otherwise, I can't help how they interpret my actions. My intentions have always been good." She tilted her head slightly, trying to reclaim control of the narrative. Kelly's smile was polite but clearly strategic. "Intentions are important, yes," she said, "but actions are what people remember. If multiple people tell a similar story, doesn't that raise questions?" A ripple of agreement passed through the audience, some nodding quietly. Meghan straightened her back. "Kelly, if I spent my life answering to every critic, I wouldn't get anything done," she said. "I prefer to focus on those who support my work and understand my vision." Her voice carried an undertone of irritation now. Kelly paused for a moment, then leaned back in her chair. "But the public platform you have comes with responsibility. Don't you think being open about past mistakes can actually strengthen your credibility?" Meghan hesitated, clearly weighing her words carefully. "I've acknowledged my challenges," Meghan said finally. "But I don't think dragging out every negative story helps anyone. It only fuels gossip and distracts from meaningful work." She glanced at the cameras, as though addressing the viewers directly. Kelly smiled faintly. "I get that," she said. "But transparency can be a powerful tool. People can forgive a lot if they feel you're being honest. The question is, are you ready to be fully honest today?" The room went utterly silent. Meghan's eyes flickered with irritation. Kelly, I came here to talk about my projects, not to defend myself against every accusation thrown my way, she said firmly. A few people in the audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Kelly chuckled softly, but there was no humor in it. I respect that, she said, but when someone chooses to live in the public eye, avoiding tough questions doesn't help their case. You can't control the narrative forever. Meghan's jaw tightened. And yet, I've managed to build a life I'm proud of despite all the noise, she countered. That should count for something. Her words had weight, but Kelly wasn't ready to let go. It does count, Kelly agreed, but credibility is built not just on what you achieve, but how you handle criticism. That's where a lot of people still have doubts. Meghan's expression hardened, her patience clearly wearing thin. Meghan adjusted her posture. Kelly, I understand the nature of your show, but I think we both know some criticisms are rooted in bias, she said. I refuse to cater to narratives built on prejudice. The comment drew a mix of applause and awkward silence. Kelly nodded slowly. Bias is real, she said. But not all criticism is bias. Some of it might be fair. Wouldn't it help your cause to acknowledge that, even just a little? Meghan's eyes locked on Kelly's, neither willing to break first. I've acknowledged what I felt was fair, Meghan said coolly. But I won't validate things I know are false just to satisfy public opinion. Kelly's lips curved into a knowing half-smile, sensing she had struck a nerve. The audience was hanging on every word now. Kelly decided to turn up the heat. Let's talk about some specific examples, she said. There were reports of tension with staff during your royal duties. Were they all making it up? Meghan exhaled sharply. I think you'll find that in any workplace, there are disagreements, Meghan replied. Unfortunately, mine were amplified because of who I am. That doesn't mean the narrative told was accurate. Her tone was clipped, signaling growing irritation. Kelly raised an eyebrow. So, you're saying there was no mistreatment at all? Meghan hesitated, clearly choosing her next words carefully. The audience leaned in, sensing a potentially explosive moment. I'm saying that the truth is far more complex than the headlines suggest, Meghan said finally. It's easy to create a villain in a story, but reality is rarely that simple. Kelly's eyes glinted. She had her opening. But Meghan, Kelly said slowly, when every story paints the same picture, at some point you have to ask why. Either everyone's lying, or there's a common thread worth addressing. Meghan's jaw clenched visibly. Meghan leaned forward slightly, her voice tight. Kelly, with all due respect, repeating rumors doesn't make them true, she said. The audience sensed her frustration rising, but Kelly maintained her calm, her tone steady and calculated, knowing this was the moment to push for the truth. Kelly smiled faintly. I'm not here to repeat rumors, she said. I'm here to ask the questions people at home are wondering. If you avoid them, you give the impression you've got something to hide. Meghan's lips pressed together, clearly unhappy with the implication. Or maybe I'm choosing to rise above pointless drama, Meghan replied sharply. I didn't come here to be interrogated. Kelly tilted her head, as if weighing that answer, then shifted slightly in her chair, preparing for a pointed follow-up. An interview isn't an interrogation, Meghan, Kelly said evenly. But people respect those who face the hard questions head-on. Avoiding them just fuels doubt. Don't you want to put this to rest once and for all? The crowd murmured in anticipation. Meghan sighed, adjusting her hair. I've addressed what matters to me, she said firmly. If that's not enough for everyone, then so be it. Kelly's eyes locked on her, and a slow smile formed, signaling she wasn't done yet. All right, Kelly said, let's shift slightly. When you talk about compassion and kindness, some critics point out that you've cut ties with people close to you, even family. How do you reconcile that with your message? The question landed like a punch. Meghan blinked slowly, her jaw tightening. Boundaries are a form of kindness, too, she replied. No one should be forced to maintain toxic relationships, no matter what the public thinks. Some in the audience clapped, but others stayed still. Kelly nodded, but her gaze didn't soften. True, but when nearly every relationship ends badly, people wonder if the common denominator isn't the other person. A sharp gasp rose from the audience, and Meghan's expression turned icy. That's an unfair assumption, Meghan said coldly. It ignores context and paints a one-sided picture. Kelly leaned forward slightly, her tone almost sympathetic but edged with challenge. I'm just saying, Kelly replied, sometimes self-reflection can be the most powerful thing a person can do. Have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, some of the criticism is justified? Meghan's lips pressed into a thin line. Meghan inhaled deeply before speaking. I reflect constantly, she said. But I won't accept narratives that strip away my truth just to make me look small. Her voice carried a tremor, whether from emotion or frustration, it was hard to tell. Kelly's voice softened slightly, but the words still cut. I hear you, but truth is strongest when it can withstand questions. If your truth can't be examined, then it's not as strong as you think. The audience gave a mix of murmurs and quiet applause. Meghan's eyes flashed. Kelly, I'm here to promote work that matters, not to entertain criticism that's been recycled for years, she said firmly. Kelly took a slow breath, deciding to go for the moment that could make headlines. Then let's end this with clarity, Kelly said. On live TV, right here, right now, can you say you've never mistreated anyone under your leadership? Not once. The audience went silent, waiting for Meghan's answer. Meghan froze for a fraction of a second. I can say I've always tried my best, she said carefully. I'm human, and I've made mistakes, but malice has never been my intent. Her answer was measured, but Kelly had caught the hesitation. Kelly smiled knowingly. So you admit there were mistakes, she said. That's all people needed to hear. Sometimes the humility to own that speaks louder than 1,000 carefully crafted statements. The audience erupted into applause. Meghan forced a tight smile. Owning mistakes isn't the same as agreeing with every accusation, she replied. But the damage was done. Kelly had framed the moment in a way that resonated with the crowd. Kelly leaned back, her voice casual. Of course not. But the moment you acknowledged imperfection, you became more relatable to everyone watching. That's the thing, Meghan, people connect with honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Meghan's eyes narrowed. Honesty works both ways, she said quietly. The media rarely tells the whole story. Kelly nodded, but her expression suggested she felt she had already made her point. Fair, Kelly said, but you control your own story here. And if you avoid the harder truths, someone else will fill in the gaps for you, and not in the way you want. Meghan stayed silent for a beat too long, and the audience noticed. Meghan finally spoke. Then maybe the truth will have to speak for itself, she said softly. Kelly's gaze didn't waver, and the tension between them was almost tangible. Kelly smiled slightly. It already is, Meghan. Right now, millions are seeing a side of you they've been curious about. And whether you like it or not, this conversation will shape their opinion. Meghan's lips curved into a faint, controlled smile. Then I hope they see someone who stands firm, she replied. Kelly tilted her head, her tone carrying a touch of finality. Or maybe, Kelly said, they'll see someone who finally dropped the script for just a moment, and that's when the real person came through. The crowd applauded loudly, sensing the subtle blow. Meghan adjusted her posture. If that's what they see, then perhaps it's not a bad thing, she said, though her voice carried an edge. Kelly nodded, satisfied she had landed her point without crossing into overt hostility. Exactly, Kelly said warmly. People don't expect perfection, they expect sincerity. And that's something no PR team can manufacture. The audience clapped again, this time more enthusiastically. Meghan gave a small laugh, though it didn't reach her eyes. I think we'll have to agree to disagree on some of this, she said. Kelly grinned. That's the beauty of live TV, we get the real conversation, not the rehearsed one. The tension in the air began to settle, but it was clear the exchange had left its mark. Meghan maintained her poise, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of annoyance. Kelly, on the other hand, seemed energized by the back and forth. I appreciate you coming here and answering these questions, Kelly said. Not everyone would. Meghan gave a curt nod. I appreciate the platform, she replied, though the words felt more formal than heartfelt. Kelly then addressed the audience directly. Conversations like this matter because they let us see beyond headlines. We may not agree with everything, but we can respect honesty when it happens. The audience responded with another wave of applause. Meghan crossed her legs again, regaining some composure. If people take anything from today, I hope it's that I'm committed to the causes I believe in, she said. Kelly nodded politely but didn't engage further on that point. And that's admirable, Kelly said. But commitment to a cause works best when people feel they can trust the person leading it. The implication hung in the air, subtle yet undeniable. Meghan's jaw tightened for a brief moment, but she quickly masked it with a faint smile. Trust is earned over time, she said. I'm okay with the fact that it's a journey. Kelly's eyes twinkled. Well, you've certainly given people plenty to think about today. The audience chuckled softly, sensing the closing moments of the exchange were near. Meghan nodded. I suppose that's all we can do, have conversations and let people decide for themselves. Kelly leaned in just slightly, ready for the final word. True, Kelly said, but some conversations reveal more than they hide. And today, Meghan, I think a lot of people got the clarity they've been waiting for. The statement drew a loud reaction from the crowd. Meghan's smile stayed fixed, but her eyes flickered with something unspoken. Then I guess it was worth being here, she said, her voice even. Kelly's own smile widened slightly, sensing she had closed the loop. Worth it for all of us, Kelly replied, her tone carrying just enough weight to suggest victory without gloating. The audience roared with applause, some even rising to their feet. Meghan stood, shaking Kelly's hand. The moment looked cordial for the cameras, but the undercurrent of their clash was unmistakable. Every viewer at home could feel it. As the segment ended, Kelly turned back to the camera with a confident smile. That's what I call an honest exchange, she said. Meghan exited the stage with her head high, but the headlines were already writing themselves. Kelly Clarkson had just delivered a live TV moment that no one would forget.